and communicable diseases, as well as infection control doctor in the hospital in the NHS. I have been in the field of infection for nearly 40 years, actually, since I came to this country in 1981. I did MSc and PhD in the London School of Hygiene, trained in Copperswood, as well as St. Pancras Hospital. They're both closed now. And then I trained in Edinburgh, as well as Imperial College. I was member of the teaching staff in Wales, University Hospital of Wales, as well as honorary senior lecturer at Imperial College in my last NHS job at Royal Brompton Hospital when I was head of the microbiology services there. Now, the question about whether those who are already infected with COVID-19, are they going to benefit from the vaccine? Can we see the first slide, please? First slide. No, this is actually not the first one. If you go back 2 slides. Yes. Okay. So is those who are infected already, do they benefit from the vaccine? Which means we're talking about the vaccine effectiveness. And is it safe for them to take it? Next slide, please. Actually, to be the immediate answer to this question, nobody knows exactly the right answer. In fact, only recently, the head of the MHRA, she said, we do not have specific advice about this situation. However, the general advice say there is no harm, but that need to be qualified. This is what they're advising the people. And based on the fact that there is already documented reinfection, which means those who are infected, they have short-lived immunity. However, which may mean reinfection and may mean revaccination. Anyway, so to just have to understand the immune system first, and during my presentation, we may throw light about all the possibilities and how useful is the vaccine. So the immune system is 2 parts. The first part, natural immunity, which we get it through our natural exposure from the mother. So there are antibodies coming from the mother through the placenta to the babies. And then we got the adaptive immunity through vaccination. And the natural, you can say there is a borderline between adaptive and natural, because when we grow up, we got exposure to the various microorganisms, and we get immunity. Now, there's a new concept called trained immunity. Trained immunity, which is based on the fact that those who had BCG or measles, they show better immunity and less severe infection with COVID. So this is a new concept, which research actually now going on into that field. So basically, the immune system consists of antibodies, IgG, IgM, and IgA. IgA is mainly on the mucosal surface, and white cells. B and T lymphocyte, effector and memory cells, polymorphs, and macrophages, they both call them phagocytes. And the macrophages, they play a crucial role in viral diseases because when they take the virus, they present the antigen on their surfaces. So they call them antigen presenting cells, and then the effector cells, which are the toxic cell, will come and kill them. Now, immunity to COVID. We have some sort of immunity to the main 4 common cold coronaviruses, which is different from those SARS or COVID-19, because as you know, we have so far 3 waves. The first one was in 2002, 2003, called SARS-1, and then MERS-CoV, which was in the Arabia, and the third one, which is the current one, COVID-19, which came, well, started from Wuhan in China. So we got the adaptive immunity to SARS-1 and COVID and all the 3, but they are short-lived. Interestingly, there are no cases of SARS-1 and no cases of MERS-CoV. And there is no definite animal source, although there's some sort of association, but so far there is no causation relationship. Next, please. Next slide. Now, why do we need the vaccine? Vaccination is very important, over the years, because it helped to get rid of all these diseases that can kill human beings. You name it, polio, smallpox, meningitis. Almost most of the diseases now have a vaccination, and we are grateful to the science for that. Herd immunity means that we increase those people who are immune, therefore there will be less cross-infection. So they are protecting the other. So when I take the vaccine, I get less severe symptoms and less cross-infection to my next door person. So this is the value of the vaccination. Now, going back to COVID, the main cause of the clinical picture actually is the overwhelming immune system. And hence, as you know, the therapy depends mainly on giving oxygen, steroid, anticoagulants. And so there is a huge immune reaction, we call it cytokine storm. Therefore, we desperately need for vaccine, because so far there is no specific treatment. Next, please. Now, the vaccine, they aim against the spike proteins. As you know, corona, just like the crown, put on the head of the kings or queens, and they have these projections called S1 and S2. S1 is for the attachment, and S2 for fusion, because the virus need to attach to a cell and then go inside, fuse inside, and to go and multiply inside the cell, and then kill the cell, release itself, and then attack another cell. Antispike protein antibodies like IgG, IgM, and IgA has 2 functions: neutralizing the virus in the bloodstream, make it ineffective, or opsonizing it, taking it and going into the phagocyte to digest it. Now, the other thing in the immune system related to our interaction with this virus is stimulation of memory T cells, what we call T helper cells. T helper cells stimulate B cells. B cells, some change to plasma cell to produce antibodies, and other go somewhere hiding and be memory cells for future encounter with the virus. T8 cell, called cytotoxic cell. These attack the antigen presenting cell, with usually the macrophages, and actually destroy them, including the viruses. So we got a very sophisticated immune system. Next, please. How the vaccine is made? The vaccine is made, in 2 types: the traditional one, and there is a new one. The new technology, they're talking about messenger RNA and nanotechnology, which is, you can see at the bottom of the slide. But the traditional one is used dead virus, live attenuated virus, which is actually live attenuated virus is not part of the current proposed vaccine, because there is a fear that if you give live attenuated COVID, it may revert and become virulent. So live attenuated vaccine is not part of the vaccine array nowadays. Gene recombinant on a virus particle, which is the gene that code for the spike protein, cut and paste it into a virus vehicle like adenovirus, which is either human or chimpanzees, or on a vesicular stomatitis virus, which is an animal virus. And then once you call it recombinant virus, when you put that gene on the virus, you call it recombinant, and that virus will be injected into the body. It is harmless. The virus is harmless, but it carries the S protein, proteins, and enhance or stimulate the immune system. So once you get the stimulation of the immune system, you get the memory cell, T helper cells. And then you got manufactured virus particles or virus proteins. But the main one, actually, the recombinant vaccine, which are now the AstraZeneca one, and the other one, which is the messenger RNA, which is Pfizer Moderna. Now, the new technology, next please, next slide please. Now this is a diagram showing the traditional vaccine, which you can have microbial protein. I think I went through that quickly, and then the messenger RNA, which is a new thing, which is really a clever way of making the vaccine. Next please. Now, messenger RNA vaccine is based on nanotechnology. What is nanotechnology? It is using a very small particle, hence the word nano, and these particles, they are the liposomes. These are double layer lipid particle. They contain the messenger RNA inside them, and then these nanoparticle carrying the messenger RNA, which code for the S protein, go into the cell and dictate the ribosome and tell the ribosome, here I am here, please do the S protein. Hence the word genomic editing. Next slide, please. Now, as you can see here on the left-hand side is the synthetic viral messenger RNA, which is what we call it, the mRNA virus. And this messenger RNA is not part of the genetic material of the cell and does not go inside the nucleus, because the nucleus and the DNA is very well protected by endonucleases, which is some people actually not very clear when they talk about it. So this messenger RNA go to the ribosomes, as you can see in the middle. The ribosome is a factory for the protein synthesis. It can make enzyme, hormone, anything you like. It is the factory. So this messenger RNA bypass the coding system or interfere with the coding system of the cell to make it produce the S protein, the viral particle, which stimulate the immune system. Hence, we can call it, it's very clever, but we don't know. It may interfere with the function of the cell, but that time will tell. But I must say, this is really, really very clever and genius way of producing the vaccine. Next, please. So the experiment behind all these vaccines, those who are in the research field, they know very well when there is an idea, you have to measure it in a test tube. Most of the time it works. Then you have to put it in animals. It gives you good success results because this is still, we are near the lab. And then the difficulty comes when we start to do human studies. We call it clinical trial. Phase 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1, probably 50 or 100. Phase 2, hundreds. and phase 3 is about tenths of thousand. The number is very important because according to the statistic, if you look for effectiveness and side effects, you need to have a huge number to detect a rare event. And this is called, I mean, all these trials done as a case control studies. So it's very important to have a big number. Now, whom we target the vaccine to? Well, this is based on the information that we got from the statisticians, and they are telling the facts. How the disease or the infection distributed, because we know COVID affecting the elderly and those who are having morbidities. The epidemiologists, based on the previous experience on, say, how they dealt with the flu virus, they give us models. And then on that basis, we measure the effectiveness of the virus. Now, how can we be confident about any vaccine? So we need two parameters. The effectiveness. The effectiveness, there are two measurements. I mean, they said that at least 50% effectiveness, which means that the vaccine should produce antibodies and memory T cells, and these are biomarkers. However, there is another measurement which yet to be found is how effective the vaccine to prevent an outbreak or epidemic, or to decrease admission to hospital, or to prevent people in the hospital come to the ITU. That needs a huge, huge number and years. That is why the vaccine actually produced after 10 years, not after 10 months. But there is an urgency to do that. Now, the safety. If somebody died, it's too many. It's a human being. We are not talking about animals. The safety, we mean two things. Usually, the immediate side effects are not that significant. We know from flu vaccination, those who are allergic to egg, they shouldn't take flu vaccine, but that doesn't apply to COVID vaccine. However, we hear in the news that 2 cases of allergy happening, and 2 cases that's with AstraZeneca, and 2 cases of Bell's palsy. Actually, today in the newspaper, they happen with Pfizer vaccine. So, how can we measure the safety of the vaccine? We need a huge number, and we need a long time follow-up, because, as you know, the disease carry a lot of manifestation, and most of it actually autoimmune phenomenon, and only time will tell. Next slide, please. Now, something about the clinical trials. Everybody needs to know there are 2 endpoints. When any medic or a nurse or healthcare will read about clinical trial, he should fix his eyes on 2 important things. The first endpoint, which is the laboratory finding, and now in this case, does this vaccine produce anti-spike antibodies? Does it produce T cells? The answer is yes in most of the current vaccine they are proposed to be given to the population. Now, the second endpoint, did the vaccine actually prevent outbreak or epidemic? This is the field test. This will be known with time. We don't know, we don't have enough data about the second endpoint. Now, what are the pros and cons of? I think I've already spoken about them, but there is a little bit of concern. Now, because of the disease give you short-lived immunity, the vaccine may do, because we expect that the disease is more effective than the vaccine creating immunity. But we are talking about a virus that take a long incubation period from 2 to 12 days or 14 days. And this is because the virus change itself and then eventually multiply, and you'll get high antibodies and cytokine storm. And that is a bit of concern, because it is very interesting that people with severe disease, they have high anti-spike antibodies, while those with mild disease have low antibodies. That is very interesting finding. And those who are infected, they have short-lived memory cells or immunity. Now, there is a concern about anti-dependent enhancements like dengue fever, because as you know, dengue fever is one of the viruses, non-viruses, that the second attack is more severe and tend to hemorrhagic fever. What is happening because of the opsonizing antibodies, they drag the virus into the cell, hide there, and then multiply and then attack the immune system. So this is one of the concerns that we need to know more about it, and time will tell. Now, I think the other thing is autoantibodies. Now, again, in the long run, we will know whether there is autoimmunity to the vaccine, as we do have it with the virus, and that is hopefully will not happen with these vaccines. Next, please. Next slide. Okay, why we need it? What's the urgency? Why we need it? Because it's a huge political and social and economic problem. I mean, this virus put whole city, all the economy to standstill. Hospitals are filled, ITU filled, doctors infected and died, nurses, overwhelmed. So we need to do some action, and hence the medical, the MHRA, which and the FDA. These are the on the European equivalent, which are the medicine and medical product regulatory bodies, gave a sort of flexibility to make the vaccine in a short period of time, bypassing the 10 years, which is usually used to use safe and effective virus. So there is a need for the virus. Next, please. There's a need for the vaccine. Now, back to the same question. If I am cured from COVID, do I need vaccine? Is it safe? Is it more protective, more antibody, more memory cells, or it may produce harm due to ADE or autoimmunity? If you are optimistic, then you say hopefully not. If you are pessimistic, you may say, okay, well, I may not take it because I haven't got the answer to these questions. Next. So the answer, this depends on the studies that have been conducted, and the first point and the second endpoint, and but we still need the infection control measures, and maybe with time, because as you know, infection control is a behavior science. So if everybody observe himself and avoid contact and avoid, observe the spacing, hand, face, and space, then probably there is less need to the vaccine. But it's not practical to do that, or people take time. Who knows? We may be in the next year better in terms of infection control, and we may not need the vaccine. Now, this is the job of the regulatory body. I mentioned that. What is the long-term side effect? And I think time will tell as well. Next, please. So this is the last slide. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khalid Alshafi. لنتكلم باختصار للمجتمع العربي باختصار. هناك حاجة إذا تسمح لي دكتور خالد، الشخص المصاب سابقا هل تكون له نفس حماية الشخص الممنع باللقاح باختصار باللغة العربية؟
لا نعرف جواب هذا، أنه هل تزداد مناعته أو يزداد الضرر أو يستفيد منها، لأنه الآن حالات مثبتة أنه الفيروس أصاب مرتين. اليوم كان عندي بيبر أظن من اللانست موجودة أنه واحد أصيب في أبريل والإصابة الثانية في جون، وهذا يعني طتفت حوالي شهرين وشوية أنه يعني يتشافى ويعني يرجع ياخذ الإصابة. عليه الانفكشن كنترول كلش مهم. الفاكسين ربما يساعد انه يعطي بوستر للاميون سيستم، لكن هذا الفاكسين اذا هو الانفكشن العادي يعطي مناعه قصيره المدى، فكيف انه الفاكسين يعطي مناعه اطول؟ هذا السؤال. السؤال الثاني، اذا هم متشابهين ربما نحتاج الى جرعات في كل سنه او في كل 6 أشهر، لانه انت تشوف الانفلونزا مرض شتائي ويتغير الفيروس ويعطى المريض يعني كل سنه حسب تغيرات الفيروس. في كوفيد اكو شويه تغيير ما ندري لانه هذا مرض جديد.
نعم. سؤال اخر حتى ننهي المحاضره، هل سيساعد اللقاح في اعاده الحياه مره اخرى؟ بشكل صريح.
هذا طبعا اكو شيء مهم، الخوف يقتل الانسان، واخطر شيء هو الخوف، والخوف يقلل مناعه الجسم. لكن اذا مثلا كنا احنا مثلا متفائلين واخذنا الفاكسين و يعني تفاءلنا ربما نرجع الى حياتنا الطبيعيه، لكن هذا كله امل. لكن المؤشرات انت متكلم واحد مثلا، هي مشكله من واحد يسال الطبيب وخصوصا في اختصاصه يعرف المساوئ والمضار، فما يقدر يقول انه ماكو شيء والحياه سليمه وهذه الى ان نتاكد انه ماكو مضار من الفاكسين. وخصوصا اليوم طلعت حالات من الاضرار او السايد افكت بالفاكسينيشن، فهذه تخلي الناس ربما تتردد في اخذ اللقاح، او يقول لك انا مثلا خلينا انتظر كم شهر اشوف غيري شو يصير بي بعدين اني اخذ اللقاح. بس الفائده مالتها انه تحفز الناس على الانفكشن كنترول. اكو شيء اخر باللقاح، انه ربما اللقاح مثلا يقلل المرض ويسوي اسيمتوماتيك، يعني انت صار عندك انفكشن بس ما تروح المستشفى وما تحس به. اكو خطر اخر بالنسبه للفاكسينيشن، انه انت تصير كارير وما حد يدري بيك وتنقل المرض. مثلا تقارنه بالاتش اي في، مرض الايدز. الان الادويه تريبل ثيرابي تخلي الانسان يعيش حياه طبيعيه 10 سنين اكثر، مو مثل سابقا ورا سنه شوف خطيه قسم منهم انتحروا. هسه يعيش حياه طبيعيه، لكن هذا اللي يعيش حياه طبيعيه وياخذ ادويه ويصير هو ناقل للمرض. يعني هي هذا البالانس.
بريطانيا، شكرا. بريطانيا استخدمت اللقاح اعتقد امس.
اي بدأوا باللقاحات، لكنه تعرف
ما هو اقبال الناس حول التلقيح؟ هل هناك اقبال؟
يعني اكو تشجيع بالنسبه للميديا والصحافه، لكن مع ذلك انت تسمع يعني هاي الاخبار اللي اجتنا اليوم هي من الصحافه البريطانيه. يعني انت اهم شيء هو ثقه الناس بالحكومه وبالجانب الطبي، وهم يعني اليوم انا حقيقه من سمعت هذه يعني الاضرار الجانبيه للفيروسز، يعني انا ارتاحت لانه اكو صدق بالموضوع. العالم يجب ان يكون صادق. اليوم واحد دز لي انه فايزر، هسه دز لي يعني قبل البرنامج حوالي ب5 دقائق، دز لي يعني سمري موجز الى الفاكسين مال فايزر. قال السيفير سايد افكت مو كثيره، هي 0.5%، يعني 5 في كل 1000. يعني أنا لما ضربت وجمعت انه احنا العالم هو 7 بلايين، اذا اعطيناها الى 1 بليون يطلع نص مليون واحد متضرر من الفاكسين. اذا ضربه في 7 او ضربه في 5 يطلع اكثر من الناس اللي هم اصيبوا وتضرروا من الفيروس. لكن الانسان طموح والحقيقه التقدم العلمي يعني احنا في بعض الاحيان نشكر الفيروسز لانه هي حفزت العلم. مثلا اول ما اجى الفيروس HIV صار عندنا البي سي ار، وهذا جدا مهم يعني قفزه نوعيه كان في نهايه الثمانينات. من بعد ذلك اجى السواين فلو. السواين فلو حفز الكوميونيكيشن والجايد لاينز والمختبرات تتعاون فيما بينها الى ان سيطرنا. فالانسان يعني اذكى المخلوقات، وانا متاكد انه الحياه راح ترجع طبيعيه سواء فاكسين او انفكشن كنترول او ميديسين.
اخر سؤال دكتور خالد، ما هي الفئات الاكثر اقبالا لاخذ اللقاح حاليا في بريطانيا؟
هو ماكو اكثر اقبالا، هم يقولون everybody will be offered the vaccine.
حاليا اكثر الفئات اللي استخدمت اللقاح
اكثر من 80. مثلا اكو كان جدول يبين لك حوالي في بريطانيا يعني تقريبا اقل من الثلث، يعني احنا في بريطانيا حوالي 67 مليون، حوالي 45 مليون هم يمكن جوا ال 50 او جوا ال 55، وهم يبدون بالتدرج ما فوق ال 80 وما بين ما 75 الى 80. وبعدين بالنسبه للقاحات طبعا لم تفحص على الحوامل، ولم تفحص اثرها على الاطفال، ولم تفحص اثرها على الاميونو كومبرومايز مثل اهل اللوكيميا، اهل الترانسبلانت، هذول بعدهم. يعني احنا نحكي عن الهيلثي الفولنربل، مثلا اللي عمره فوق ال 80 ويجي هذا الكوفيد، يعني يقول لك الفاكسين يمكن احسن. هي العمليه يعني سوشيو ايكونوميك، يعني هو قرار سياسي واقتصادي وصحي. يعني انت يعني تتخذ هيك قرار تحسب هاي الاشياء كلها. مثلا اذا تتذكر المستشفيات في ابريل ومارس يعني فتحوا مورتريز في اضافه يعني ثلاجات للموتى، وكانت كارثه حقيقه. يعني الى ان صار هدوء وصار لوك داون، الناس عرفت بخطوره المرض. يعني هذا يعني ما نقدر نقول انه منو يحب الفاكسين اكثر او لا، لكن اكو معلومات تشجع على الفاكسين، واكو معلومات اخرى تقول لك لا شوي انتظر. ف يعني احنا عند رئيس الوزراء مالتنا قال لا يوجد هناك اجبار على اخذ الفاكسين.
فتح لنا سؤال هذا الكلام، انه اللقاح كان يعني يعطى مجانا لو كيف يعني اكو اجور لقاء؟
لا يعطى مجانا
اظن برنامج حكومي
مجانا. بس هم المشكله انه الدول الفقيره هل يعني مثلا احنا يعطى مجانا الحكومه هي تدفع فلوس، بس الدول الفقيره من يدفع؟ هذه مشكله. طبعا هذه كانت مشكله في الاتش اي في. في اول ما بدات طبعا الاتش اي في كانت ابيديميك، يعني مو سهله، اسوء من الكوفيد. في افريقيا مثلا، في افريقيا 30-40%، والاتش اي في يعني اخطر من الكوفيد. ليش؟ الاتش اي في يضرب الشباب والمستقبل، بينما الكوفيد يضرب اكثر شيء كبار السن، يعني اللي هو مخلص حياته ومكمل. هذا هم يحتاج له موازنه واخذه بالاعتبار.
شكرا جزيلا. ثانك يو سو ماتش دكتور خالد الشفي. نلتقي ان شاء الله في لقاءات علميه اخرى. شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا. ثانك يو فيري ماتش.